Hey everyone, it's Matt. I am gonna probably start in like a minute or two. We're just waiting for some more people to join. While we're waiting, I will point out some features. At the bottom of the screen, there's some buttons, and one of them is the chat button. Another one is DM. You want to use the chat button if you want to type a question or anything like that. Into the chat you can ask, and I will try to answer them. I'm going to see if I can enable, yeah, I've enabled the Q&A section as well, and so you can use that to ask a question. That's probably better, in fact, to use the Q&A button at the very bottom. You can type in a question there. I will probably get to questions at the end and not in real time, just because I'll be showing my screen. But I will do my best to answer all the questions. Hopefully, the questions will be stuff that I'll be covering anyways, and we'll answer them naturally. But if not, we should have time at the end for questions. Okay, well, we can begin, I think. So again, my name is Matt Kaufman. My day job is working with Salesforce, implementing Salesforce, adding functionality to Salesforce, things like that at a company I started called MK Partners. I've been doing this, giving talks like this and hosting events as a GDG organizer for actually almost 14 years now. I also have written some books and online videos and things like that. If you're looking to reach out to me, my handle on most services is @the1mattkaufman. You can also reach me through Meetup or the GDG community website. A little bit about GDG, or Google Developer Groups. So they're all community run. So I'm a volunteer. I don't work for Google. I don't get paid to do this stuff. This is just a volunteer activity, which also means that anyone can do it. And there are hundreds of chapters around the world, all volunteer run. And if you're interested, I'll have some slides later where you can talk about it. But it's really great global community where you get to meet people with similar interests and talk about technology and things like that. We do have a code of conduct for virtual events. It's typically not a problem, but we do have chat and questions like that. So please keep things polite and friendly. For in-person events, obviously, it's a little more important. But by attending, you're basically agreeing to this policy of being excellent to each other. If someone does say something inappropriate in the chat or DM or Q&A, or if I say something inappropriate, please, let me know, and we'll try to handle it offline. But yeah, we won't tolerate it. So that person will, hopefully be restricted from going to future events. Some benefits for being a volunteer like me. Obviously, we're going to meet a lot of amazing people. You saw that picture earlier. And I've met people from all around the world who we have a lot in common, which is really neat to meet someone that, grew up differently, and yet there's so much in common. So I really enjoy that. We do get a lot of training opportunity. And so I have really broadened my horizon, as I mentioned earlier. My day job is working with Salesforce, but I, at this point, probably work equally with non-Salesforce stuff as I do with Salesforce stuff. And a lot of that has to do with my involvement with GDG and kind of like getting exposed to new technologies. So that's really great. The new skills with that. We do get access to cloud credits and sometimes other programs that Google has that might have a cost to it. We can get it for free, which is a nice perk. And then the opportunity to attend various Google events. So right now we're recording this. It's April 8th. And so Google Next is coming up in 2 weeks in Las Vegas. That's the big Google Cloud conference in Las Vegas. And then in May is Google I/O, which is the Google Developer Conference. And so we often get opportunities to attend that as well. So it's another nice benefit. And then, of course, sometimes you can get publicity or asked to speak at an event and stuff like that too, which is nice. All that we have to do in order to do that is hold a certain number of meetups per year. It actually changes every year, give or take. But the goal is to volunteer consistently and try to bring things back to our community and help our communities grow. Obviously, we have to follow the code of conduct and stuff like that too. So it's a pretty light ask in exchange for making a lot of friends and learning new things. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and begin a look at anti-gravity. Hopefully you've already heard of it. If you've attended this, if you're attending this call, you're at least familiar a little with the application. I'm going to start by just kind of going over some high-level stuff, and then we'll just jump straight into the app itself, trying it out for different use cases. But high level, in case you haven't played with it already, it is locally installed, so it's not a cloud-based application. Google had another cloud-based application called Firebase Studio that I was using a lot. Actually, I enjoy using cloud-based apps because it's my day job, but also I'm right now on a Chromebook, and I've been on a Chromebook since 2018, I think. And so it's nice to have things that are web apps instead of having to install. But you do have to install Antigravity. It runs on Mac, Windows, and Linux. Essentially, if you're familiar with VS Code, you're already familiar with Antigravity because it's basically VS Code, but it has some pre-built functionality included with it. You can install your own extensions as well. So if there's a certain extension you like, and you'll see when we get into my instance, I have various extensions installed too. You can do that. You change the colors. All the functionality that you basically have in VS Code or Coder, you can do inside Antigravity as well. And then, of course, on the AI side, it supports skills and MCP servers. And so we'll look at that also. What's nice is Antigravity is free to use. So you can use it as an IDE or text editor for free. And the AI functionality is free as well, up to certain limits. And I think those limits kind of are still in flux. If you are on Reddit or if you look the web a lot, you'll see that people are talking about it sometimes. But the goal is that we all get to benefit from it. And so the issues that tend to come up is when somebody does something they're not supposed to do. There are paid plans that are available through Google One. So if you're a Google One storage subscriber, depending on what plan you're on, you may have some additional credits available for Antigravity, or you may want to upgrade and then get those additional credits. But in general, if you're using it as an IDE and not trying to do something nefarious, then you're probably going to be okay. There are terms of service, and again, I read online, people were using it for things they weren't supposed to do, and they got caught. The other thing just to note, and I run into this myself a lot, if an agent is running, it will keep your computer from sleeping. And I've come back to my desk sometimes after hours, and I was like, oops, I left it open. And I don't want my screen to burn in or just even waste electricity. So it is something also to be aware of. Some great use cases. Obviously, the basic one, if you're already using VS Code or Coder or some flavor of it, you can use Antigravity the exact same way, and it might just have some additional stuff installed behind the scenes, but you can continue to just use it that way and not have to have two apps installed. So if you just want to reduce the amount of storage that things are taking up on your computer, but you want to play with Antigravity, you could uninstall VS Code and use the exact same projects and settings and everything like that. Coding and debugging support is great too. So I'm sometimes working front end or back end and something's not working, and I will ask an AI agent, hey, why is this not working? Here's the error I got, which you can do with other tools as well. I like to start projects in Antigravity when I'll actually create a large kind of requirements list of here's what I want, here's what I'm trying to build, and then I tell it, now go ahead and scaffold this for me, and it'll start building it. Documenting your existing code. So if you have a large code base or a repository, you can pull that in to Antigravity and then ask it to document it, either adding code comments or even just creating markdown files or some other type of files that say what this code's for. Research is a neat one. I've asked it to go out onto the web and find stuff out for me, and then create a document or a list, and it's able to do that. We'll look at that. Antigravity is able to control an instance of Chrome and use it for research or use it for testing, which is really neat. And then local file management. So if you give it access to the directories and folders on your computer, you could ask it to, organize them so that files over a certain age are in a different folder, or delete duplicates, or whatever it may be. There's a lot of use cases really that you could use it for, if you're willing to explore. Actually, I'll come back to this slide. Let's jump to Antigravity first. So here we are. It should look somewhat familiar. This is, like I said, essentially VS Code. I can pull up the command palette here, and you can see, just like any other VS Code instance. And if I could do this, we'd be able to search for files and so on and so forth. I'll zoom in a little. Let's see. Oh, nope, that's not zoom. Let me try that one more time. Yeah, that is zoom. Okay. So hopefully that'll be somewhat readable. Oh, you're still not seeing the right screen. 1 second while I fix that. Try that one more time. We're going to share this way. Okay, perfect. Okay, so here's Antigravity, and I've zoomed in already. And yeah, it's VS Code. If we're looking at its code or VS Code, if I can pull up the command palette, like I mentioned, you can see I actually have some extensions installed. We'll look at that too. But it has a lot of built-in commands that are specific to Antigravity, but it will have all the other stuff that VS Code would have too, spacing kind of stuff. You want to set tabs to 2, and so on and so forth. Settings specific to Antigravity are available, but also just the general settings that you would see in VS Code would be available too. Preferences. The menus at the top, yeah, you can see those, are pretty much the same as well. And if you're not familiar with VS Code, you could either get familiar with it or just start with Antigravity. It's totally up to you. You can see I do have some extensions installed already. So I have ones related to my day job, which again is Salesforce. I also have one, we use Jira, so I have that. I've been playing with Astro.js, so I have one for that. And then Lint and Go and stuff like that too as well. Antigravity will probably install some for you automatically because of what it tends to do. And if you don't want them, you can just uninstall them. So for instance, like if I'm not going to be working with Go, I could come here and uninstall that or disable it, and then it won't take up as much memory. But that's pretty straightforward. This is the folder browser, the project browser right here. I just don't have any files in this because this is a brand new project that I created for this call. Over here on the right hand side is really what's special about it. Is that we have an agent chat window where I can come and create new conversations with an agent. And there's additional options. You can set up MCP servers and customizations with rules and things like that. Let's go to MCP servers. So here you can see there's some MCP servers that are available from a directory or a listing. And these tend to be ones that Google is very familiar with. But you can actually add any MCP servers you want. Give it a second to load. It's just a JSON file. And you can even just ask the agent to add an MCP server if you have its URL. Let's view the raw config. Yeah, so you can see here, it's just a JSON file where you add MCP servers. So that's the same as any other IDE that you're probably familiar with. And so what's nice is that the instructions that you would see for another IDE will apply here as well. In this chat window here for my AI agent chat window, I have a couple drop downs that I want to point out. The first is a conversation mode. So there's a planning mode and there's a fast mode. And it kind of explains what the two are. I'll go over high level, and then we can kind of play with it and see the difference. So fast mode is basically good when you're telling it what you want and you know what you want to some extent. You just want it to do it, right? So you're just telling this agent, essentially you're delegating to the agent, hey, I need you to do this for me, right? That's great for fast mode. Planning mode is better for complex tasks that are going to require maybe for it to build out some kind of processes. It could be that it needs to build out a script, maybe a Python script to do something for you. It could be that it needs to go scrape a website and then start building and then go back and do stuff and multiple forth. And so what it's going to do here is basically kind of build out a plan, and then it will like say, hey, review this plan for me, make sure it's good, and then you review it and you can then execute the plan. And so these are the two options that we have. It's the modes. Obviously, and we'll probably talk about this a little, I mentioned we get a certain amount of AI usage as part of the free plan for Antigravity. The planning mode is going to use more than the fast mode. But if you don't have a plan, then it might make sense to use the planning mode. And worst comes to worst, if you run out of tokens or credits, you could proceed with the plan, right? So if you don't have a plan and you want it to make a plan for you, you could do that. Otherwise, fast mode, if you know what it needs to be done. And then the second dropdown is the models. We have a couple different models that are available to us. These are built in. Now you'll notice there's no other option here. So if there's a model that you really want to use and it's not on here, I apologize, not much you can do. And so you would have to install an extension that's able to use that model and then use that instead. And then obviously that extension is going to be using whatever credit or token system that you have for that other model. These are the ones that are built in and available. And what's kind of nice, I guess, is that the limits are kind of per model. So 3.1 Pro, high and low, has one limit, Flash has another limit, and then Claude has another limit, and then this GPT-1 down here at the bottom has another limit. And so if you do run out, you can switch models. Obviously, that's great if you had a plan already built. Switching to a model might make sense. You can have that model maybe work on it. If you don't have a plan and you're having it like write code for you or do some type of operation over and over, different files, whatever it may be, that might not be that great to switch models because the work would be different, right? Essentially, it's like if you're delegating work to multiple people, they all might do it slightly differently. And so that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so Flash is a pretty lightweight model that's probably use fewer tokens and credits. So I'll probably keep it on that. And then we have fast and planning. Let's start with planning, and then we can give it a prompt of something we want to do. Now, sometimes what I do, because I am cautious about using up anti-gravity tokens and credits, is I will open up the Gemini website and ask it to help me write a prompt for what I want to do. And then I take the result and paste it in here. And so I'm saving a little bit here and there. Some other things to be aware of is that any skills that you have globally or in this project and any MCP servers that you have technically could also use up some tokens because it's context that the AI needs to be aware of. So we saw earlier, I have my Salesforce extensions. I had an Astro.js extension. Those are never used together. Astro.js is a framework. Salesforce is an app, a SaaS app. I never use them together. So it wouldn't make sense for me to have the same MCP servers turned on for all of my projects. It wouldn't make sense for me to have the same skills in all my projects, and so on and so forth. And so I tend to keep those at the project level instead of a global level. It does mean a little more work every time I start a new project, but it also means that I'm probably going to less likely run out of tokens. It also means that the process itself for when the AI is running should be a little more efficient behind the scenes, at least, because it has less to take into consideration. Okay, so I'm going to start with first prompt. I'm going to say, I need you to build a website for a food delivery service. It should be fun and have exciting colors. It should be intuitive to use. So this is like a terrible prompt, right? Because it's not very technical at all. I really didn't tell it anything. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll say this in a prompt. I'll say, ask me any questions you need to proceed. And that way it won't just run away and start doing things that don't work for me. So for instance, I don't really want it to build like a Java app. I'm not a Java developer. So I don't want it to do that. It might, it probably won't, but it might. And so by saying, ask me any questions you need to proceed, it's less likely to kind of run away and start doing things based on whatever its system prompts are. It's more likely to ask me. Usually what I prefer to do is actually give it all the requirements. So I will say things like, I want it to be built with Astro.js. I want it to have a Firestore DB backend. I want it to run on Google Cloud Run, and I want to have a main QA and dev instance, and I just keep going through this long list of stuff, which is great for planning and great for 3.1 Pro High. For something like this, I don't really care. This is a demo, and so I don't have a lot of requirements. I'm just going to go ahead and click the button, and we'll see what happens. Actually, before I click it, some other things you can do is you can upload files. So I could upload, if I had like a design already kind of built out, I could upload that. I could also talk to it. And then often what I also will do is I'll just add files to my project here on the left-hand side. So if I have those designs already, I can put them in like an artifacts folder or design folder or something like that, and then tell it, reference the designs in the folder. So I'm going to click that. It'll probably take a little while to run. What you'll notice is it's essentially talking back to me. So in a way, this is kind of like the style that we use when we're on an interview, a job interview. You're supposed to explain what you're thinking, right? And it's kind of doing that. So it's going very quickly, but it's saying, okay, I'm going to think about what tools to use. I'm going to think about this. I'm looking at this, just checking this, and so it's kind of telling us what it's doing. You'll notice now that it's stopped. It wants to know if it can run a command. I'm going to allow it. I do have options. I can allow it for the workspace. I can allow it globally. I could also run it in the sandbox. So depending on what computer you're using, if it's your personal one, your work one, and how sensitive the stuff is on there, you may just want to say allow once. You may want to say allow for this workspace, which I will in this case, and let it go and run. And it's going to figure out everything it needs to do. And ideally, you pay attention to what it's doing and don't just keep clicking allow, because it's actually installing stuff right now, right? Which is not always a safe thing to do. So I'm paying attention as I'm doing this. And it's interesting because I thought I already had both Python and Node installed on this computer. So I'm not sure what the issue was there, but that's okay. And so it's running stuff, and it's able to not only run things in this project, it's able to run things from the terminal, which is what it's really doing here. So it's interacting with my computer. This is an interesting point, and we can look at that later. The files that it was creating there are in this folder that's called .gemini, and then /antigravity, and so on and so forth. And what basically is happening is, regardless of the project, I have different sessions with the agents, and it's storing these files in places that are not necessarily easy to find. So here we can see them, .gemini file or folder. And so it's not necessarily intuitive because I'm in Antigravity, but Gemini is the name of Google's like AI product. Okay, and so now it's done, and we can read what it says. We can also open up this markdown file and see what it's done. Now, this is the plan that it came up with. It's a pretty lightweight plan because my requirements were very lightweight, but I can come in here and make changes to it. So here's like a hex code. If I really don't like this hex code, I could change it. We haven't actually started building it yet. You'll notice the last thing it says here is, okay, once I have these details, I'll put together the full plan. So it has some questions for me here. And I told it to ask me questions. So do you have a name for the service? Okay, so we're going to say, the name of the service is Demo Diner, since this is a demo. And what I will often do is either answer the questions in like a document to the side so that I can format it right and think about it and things like that. Or I'll do something like this and just answer in line. It doesn't need a lot of context because we're using an LLM, so I don't necessarily have to number these things. I could just answer them, and it'll hopefully understand that. Focus on healthy cuisine, sure. And so I'm just going to answer these questions. What are the key features we want? Yeah, let's say browsing browsing menus and showing pictures of food. And then the color palette, let's choose, sure, electric, orange, and lime. Sounds great. And so I've answered its questions, and now it's going to proceed. It's going to update the ideas probably and do some other stuff. So here it is, updating the design notes. I turned on a sound. I don't know if you guys were able to hear it, but I turned on a sound to alert me when it's done with stuff. There's the sound there. And that way, if I'm not on this window, because often tasks can take a while, I'll at least be notified and can come back to it. So I recommend doing that. Although if you're on a lot of calls, then maybe not. And so we are going to keep hitting allow to get it to start building stuff out. And so you'll notice now one of the features of this wasn't even on the use case slide. I probably should have added it because it's newer. It's able to generate images with Nano Banana, which is the model that Gemini has for creating images. And so they can do it from here. So what's nice, in the past, I used to have to use multiple tools to do stuff. So I would use an AI tool in my IDE to generate code, and then I'd have to open up another tool to generate images, and then download that image, and then upload it into my project, and so on and so forth. And you don't need to do that now. You can have it do it here. There's still going to be some functionality that's not available for here, from here, so you probably will use other tools, but at least we're able to use fewer and fewer tools as things get better and better for us. So it's taking care of it. It's doing it. I don't have control over this prompt. It decided it. If I've really hate mango and I was like, oh, I wish it had said pineapple, then I would have to tell it that I prefer pineapple, or I could have generated the image myself. There was a question while we're waiting for this about, is there a mode where you could have the agent answer you but not do anything? And the answer is yes. If your prompt says "Don't touch my code," then just answer the question. Then it won't do anything. It'll also ask you ahead of time before it changes anything, and we'll do a change in a little bit. You'll see that essentially it's a Git interface that we're using, so you can choose to accept the changes or not accept them. And I often will ask the question, like, look, just tell me where the problem is. I don't want you to fix it because I think I know what I'm doing. I just can't find the one line that where the problem is, right? And you can do that too, especially if you like paste in an error message or something like that. And so you can use the functionality how you want to use it. You're not forced to necessarily use it a certain way, but I think you get a lot more out of it when you let it do more work. So what's kind of neat, while this is running, I can start a new conversation. So I could come here and I can now start another conversation. That other one's still going. You can see it down here. And we could say something like, here, let's research the top 10 restaurants in San Francisco. And I'm going to change this to fast mode. And I'm going to change it to, let's do 3.1 Pro High and San Francisco. And I'm going to say, as of April 2026, make sure the restaurant is still in business because many have gone out of business over the last few years, which unfortunately is true for San Francisco. So let's see what it's going to do. I don't know if it's going to use a backend tool that it has access to, or if it's going to open up Chrome. If it opens up Chrome, I'll try to move that window to this monitor so that you'll be able to see it, obviously. It may just be doing a Google search even. I don't know. We can look. I don't want to interrupt it too much, but when it's done, we can kind of look and see what it's doing. So, okay, this is interesting. So it wants to go to a web page. The web page is DuckDuckGo, passing in a certain query, and it's going to do a curl rather than open up the browser. So we're not going to see it open up the browser. I promise you at some point we'll get it to open up the browser. But I am totally okay with it doing a curl to that URL. And now it still needs Python or something. Okay, let's see if it can do it. So again, it does an interview style where it's telling me about stuff. Oh, here we go. It opened up the browser. Okay, so hands off. Look at this. My hands are in front of me. I'm not controlling the browser, and I don't have a friend here doing it either. I promise you. And so it is doing. It's doing it. I love this. This is my favorite part of it. I've had it take over my browser for minutes at a time, like 5 minutes even. Oh, it says my agent needs my input. Okay, so I gotta jump back and say always allow. Oh, what's gonna happen? Someday, this entire demo may just be run by Antigravity, and I will just have my hands back and wait. That'd be an interesting proof of concept. It definitely, the tools out there to do it exist. So I could have AI generate a script. I could have AI generate the audio or video even from that script, and probably even control the browser to match the audio at the same time. I'm gonna just keep jumping back and forth to see what it's doing. So it's telling us what it's doing. It's basically it's scraping the page. So it got the DOM. It's putting it into a scratch pad, which is just like a temporary file that it needs, so that it can reference it again later. And so you can see here it's retrieved. Maybe I'll do this. There we go. So we can see a little of both at the same time. And yeah, this is one of my favorite features. The first time I saw it, it was a huge surprise in the past, thing that I've not been able to get agents to do for me, to really kind of take over and do multiple steps with the browser. I've used it to run tests as well, where I've built an app that had a front end, so a web app, and I just wanted to test it, make sure it really works, and I've had it create the test, so it writes out the test. Okay, when I click on the menu, I should see these 5 options. When I click on the contact link, I should see the contact page, etc., etc. And it will walk through and do those tests and then record, yes, it worked, no, it didn't work. And if it did work, you can then tell it to fix it, the code behind it and stuff like that. So it is really powerful and a great tool if you need to do anything that's browser-based. It's doing scrolling, it's doing clicking. I am not touching anything right now. And it's probably going to take a while, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to keep talking. If there are more questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat. But you can see on the right-hand side what it's doing is it's essentially reading the page, scraping the HTML, putting it into like a temporary file, and then interpreting some of the stuff in that file too, probably. You can see it closed that little pop-up at the bottom there. So you can see it says close the newsletter overlay, which is great. There's a lot of nefarious use cases for technology like this. So use it with caution, and make sure what you're doing is appropriate and legal before you do anything. Obviously, this fake website that we're building is not going to be a live website, and I'm not going to make any money off of it. So using content from this other website is fairly safe for this purpose. But if I was building something for work or for a business or whatever it may be, I'd want to be very careful about where I'm taking content from, because there are legal ramifications to doing so. Recently, though, for a work project, we were migrating from one system to another, and the legacy systems backend was just a mess. And I was like, you know what, let's just take it from the front end. It'll be a lot easier. And so I used Antigravity to actually go through all the pages on the front end and then add it to the new project. And so we were able to get all the content that way. And so there are legitimate use cases for these tools. It's not just used for bad actors on the web. So maybe I should have said fewer restaurants than 10, because this is taking a while, but hopefully it will be done soon. And we can also check back on that other task, which is probably still running in the background. So let's see. We come back here. Did anything change? Oh yeah, this changed here. You can see that this page got a lot longer. This is the implementation plan. It may be asking me for stuff on that other one right now. Oh, here we go. Always allow. Oh, it's going to another website. We'll let it keep doing that. So now it's at the Michelin Guide website. So it's actually like going, to multiple websites and trying to make sure that those restaurants are still open, which is great. So if you're researching a vacation you want to go on or planning some type of activities, even though this is what we would think of as a code editor, you can use it for other types of tasks. It's not just for code, which is really a great use case, especially since there's a free tier, right? So that's really nice. Okay, so this is taking a while. Let's just look around here. We can see that scratch pad where it's storing its notes temporarily. So we can see these are the notes that it's making, potential restaurants. And I think what it's doing is actually verifying each of those restaurants right now, which is why it's taking so long. Let's look at past conversations. So we can come here to our past one, which is still running. Okay, there was something that I need to allow. Let's go ahead and allow that. And so I'm actually running multiple commands at once. And this is one of the features of Antigravity, is that you can have agents running in the background. I'm not sure if this one's, oh, I see. Okay, there we go. Oh, look at that. So while we're still scraping random websites here, or not so random, it went ahead and generated a bunch of images with Nano Banana. And these look great. Like, these are the food I eat. So I'm glad I ate lunch already, because it'd be a lot harder to be giving this demo looking at this great food if I hadn't eaten lunch yet. So I have two agents running at the same time right now, right? I have the one building this site, this food delivery website, and I have the one doing the research on the restaurants. They're not really related, right? I mean, they could be if this was, some app that I was building for real. But it's not. You could almost argue these are like two separate projects that I'm running at once. Sure, if I'm delivering food from the top restaurants, then it makes sense, of course. But it's almost like two different departments at a company, right? Or two different employees at a company are working for me. I've delegated one employee to do some research and say, hey, go find out this stuff about the restaurants. And then I've delegated to a marketing person and a developer or a designer to do all this work on the app itself. Oh, it built an app already. So that was fast. Let's see if the other one is still going. I think it is. So I'm going to come back here, researching top San Francisco restaurants. Okay. Oh, it needed me to accept something. And I think this one is done now. I don't see any spinning on here. So here's the list of the 10 restaurants that it came up with. Here's the top 10 restaurants. I don't know if it put that anywhere, so I'm going to go ahead and ask it, can you store this list in a MD file in the project? And I don't need Pro High for this, right? I'm going to jump back down. I'm actually going to jump down to this GPT one here and just say do that, because this is really easy. I'm just I could do it myself. They can hit the copy button here and create a new file and paste it there. That's what I should do, because it really is a waste of everything to ask the AI to copy paste. That is just not great, but for demo purposes, I will ask it and see what happens. I'm not sure if it got that. I don't think it did. All right, I'm just going to copy it myself then. Okay, there we go. I had the little the notification sound. So I'm going to come back here and jump to my food delivery website. And what we can see is it actually started a web server. So the app is built, and I can visit the site. It says, here it's running by opening up my browser and going to my local host. It did it for me already. It is. So this is the website that it just built for me. Here's those images. Here's the site. I was talking to you while it did that, right? So I was not the one making this site. It made the site. This was a terrible prompt. You saw I gave a really bad prompt. It was not specific at all. But it often is the case that we get very vague requirements in work, right? And so it ran with it based on system prompts and what it knows. and it's in the LLM, and it built this site, which is actually, I mean, it looks real to me. I think the logo could be a lot better, but it still looks like a real website. And it's somewhat functional too. You can see here, clicking this is actually adding something to a cart. Now, I don't think checkout is going to work because you saw there's not many files in this app. But the fact that even that works is pretty impressive. We need to add more food and probably even say where it's coming from. And these are all made up pricing. So I wouldn't run a business with this price because I might be losing money on this salad. But making a lot of money on this mango drink, that's awfully expensive in my opinion. But yeah, so if you get vague requirements and you just need to do a proof of concept or even an MVP, a minimal viable product, this type of tool would be super useful to just get something up and running and determine, does this make sense? Are we even going down the right path? Or often there's a catch-22 in work where someone doesn't want to commit to signing a contract, let's say, until they know what it's going to look like. It's like, well, I'm not going to build it for you until you sign the contract. You're not going to sign the contract till you know what it looks like. We're at a standstill. And instead you go like, okay, fine. You know what? Let me take the paragraph at most that you gave me, run it through Antigravity, and I'll show you what it could look like. And then they can come back with feedback, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's very little effort on your part. I was able to do it while talking to you and actually doing other research on restaurants, right? And so we were able to build this site. Yeah, so you can see, like, it's not a functional web app, but it is a great kind of proof of concept so that we can be visually on the same page. And if we look at what it did behind the scenes, again, I did not specify what I wanted, but we have this app.js with some JavaScript, and then we have the index.html with some HTML, and then we have the style sheet and the images. So it's a very, very like lightweight web page, but I didn't do any of this, and I didn't have to know about it. And now we can ask it to make changes. So I'm going to say, I mean, if we want to do a simple change, I could say, instead of fuel your electric life, because that to me does sound kind of weird. Let's say instead of the tagline being fuel your electric life, change it to fuel your eclectic life. We could do that. No, let's say your healthy life. Okay, so very simple change, right? Honestly, again, this is a terrible use of AI. I should be able to do this myself by just doing a find in the file and looking for the word electric. Okay, so here's what I was mentioning earlier. If I'm not sure I trust the AI and I want to review the changes or not let it do changes, I could have said, tell me what line it's on, and it would have told me. I could have also just done the find. But here you can see that the Git user interface that we're using, basically, where I can see, okay, I see what it did there. Green this is greenish. I know it's hard to see. It's changing the word electric to healthy, and I can accept it either here, one at a time, the changes, if I really want to do a code review and make sure it's good, or I could accept all the changes either on the file level or over here at essentially like the commit level, and do that there. And so now that changes there. And if we come back to here and I've got to restart the localhost. I'll have to tell it to start it. Actually, do we have a package now? Let's ask it. Can you start the web server so that I can review it live? And so it's going to go ahead and just use the terminal to start the web server. Here we go. Okay, and I'll hit allow. And if I was smart, and I'm going to do this a lot, I would probably tell it to create a package file, and then or some type of other script that I could do. And so here we can see now be live, and so it did it. So it's very easy to kind of treat it like an assistant and have it do stuff for you. You just ask it, here's a change I need, here's a change I need, and keep doing that. I did not check to see if this was a responsive site. It was not one of my requirements. I'm just curious. Yeah, it's pretty responsive. No, maybe not. This part here is not great. I don't know what's going on there. So I could say that. I could say the today's fresh picks section is not responsive. Can you fix that for me? Let's do that, in fact. The part of the page that says today's fresh picks and the buttons underneath it are not mobile friendly. They get squished. I mean, it's up to you how much you want to give. You could also give it a lot less. Sometimes what I do is I will do this. Here's another example. So I could do a prompt like this. And if I am less of a developer, I may do it this way, where I'm just talking to it and telling it what to do. I can also come here and do something like this, where I say like a comment. And I'll do this a lot. I love doing this. To do, make this section mobile friendly / responsive, right? And I can do this now throughout the entire app. Put a bunch of to-dos. In JavaScript, I comment it differently, obviously. But I can put all these to-dos. And then what I can do here is I could say work on the to-dos in this file. I could also say complete the to-do on line 45 of index.html. And I should save this file before I say that. Okay. And I do this a lot. I like to do it this way because then I can keep track of what I need to do or what I want to do. And I can use small units of AI at a time as opposed to letting it run wild. Other times I do let it run wild when I'm just like, you know what, build this whole site. I don't even care. And so I do that sometimes too. Let's see. Okay, so it is updating the style.css to do it. And I just hit accept. I don't even care. And now we will try that one more time. Well, that doesn't look like, oh yeah, look, it made it a little better. I see, look what it did there. So it centered today's fresh picks, and it fixed that all items shows up. And then this is a left-right scroll, which I don't know. I mean, I don't think that's the greatest, but it definitely could be worse. Oops. Let me see if I can fix that. There we go. But yeah, so this is another kind of like great use case when you can get it to fix stuff for you. Now we could have it write a test if we wanted to. So we could say, write some unit tests that I can run against the site to make sure that it's working as expected, and then have it do that. I may accept all. Okay. I may have to like kill a process or two because I can hear my computer going crazy. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so the research one I can kill. Let's come back to here. I think it's doing something. I'm not sure. I don't think it is actually. Okay, I'm gonna start a new one, and I'll end that one, and I'm just gonna write some tests to ensure that the site is working as expected. Let's try that one more time. Okay, so it's analyzing the page, it's analyzing the JavaScript, and it's gonna then write some tests. And yeah, we probably should have done npm in it a long time ago. And I'll, in the interest of time, just keep hitting it, allow. Okay, so it's got a Python server running. And come on. So often when it hits an error, it'll handle it and be able to move past it and do whatever it takes. Okay, so here's some tests that it wants to verify. And these were, yeah, so that something gets added to the cart when you click the add button. That's a good test. Clicking the explore the menu button, so on and so forth, all good tests. So we'll see if it's able to produce these tests, and then I'll ask it to run the tests as well. This is obviously like a pretty simplistic use case because I don't really care about this website and it's not work related or something that would make money from. but you can continue to build a real project with this and build more and more and more. And there are some use cases that I have for work and for hobby, where the code base is large, a lot larger than this. And it's nice to be able to delegate and not have to always find something or figure something out myself. I think the tricky part is delegating first, and not just immediately jumping to write code, which is my first reaction is usually, oh, I can do that. I know how. I do know how. I can do it, but it'll be faster and more efficient if I ask the AI to do it and then review its code and give it feedback if needed. And then, of course, you can install skills and rules and MCP servers and kind of tailor the performance that you get out of this to match your style. So if you do have an existing code base, you can basically kind of, force it or encourage it to follow the same structure and the same patterns and things like that. If you have a naming convention or a style guide, you could add the style guide as a artifact on the left-hand side that it should reference, so that it'll follow your style, that type of thing. I'm going to close some of these files at the top. So you can see these scratch pads that it keeps creating, which is kind of like just a cache file for it to keep track of what it's doing. And you can see here, it made a list of things, and it's going through and actually now building out those tests, or at least thinking about the tests. Oh, I think, it's actually doing it behind the scenes. I wasn't paying attention. I think it's running the test right now. I'm going to close some of these other. I try not to interact with the browser when it's running because I don't want to take over and interfere. It should prevent me from interfering, and you can kind of tell. I know it's hard to see, but there's like a blue glow around this window, which means that it's being run by something else and not me. That's not a feature of the website. That's actually the blue glow of kind of the DOM being controlled by my agent. So it's an indicator. So it's doing a test right now. I don't think it understood my request. I wanted it to write tests. How did I ask it? Maybe I didn't ask it well. I said write some tests, so it should be writing it. I could interrupt it. I could start typing here and interrupt it. I could also stop it. I'm curious if it's actually going to be writing the tests or if it's just running tests. And I don't want to run out of time either. So I may just stop it. We only have a couple minutes left, so if there are any questions, now would be a great time to put them in the Q&A or the chat. I'm gonna just put this down as like, are you storing these tests in a file for future use? And it's pending, so I don't know if it'll see it while it's still doing something else. So I'm not exactly interrupting it when I would like to, but I could always stop it if it was really going down the wrong path, and I was like, oh, it's doing totally wrong thing. It's deleting all my files, right? Which you would have to hit allow. But if it was doing something that I thought was a waste of time and a waste of credits, then I could stop it. And I do that occasionally when I'm like, no. And usually it's my fault for asking badly, right? Garbage in, garbage out. So the more specific you are, the more likely it's going to do what you want. But you can always stop it if you need to. And then, of course, the other thing to keep in mind is this is essentially VS Code. So it's important that you're using some type of repository to store your work as you make changes. And so the best practice that I would recommend is to use GitHub or GitLab or some other repository and check in at meaningful points. So that way, if something does happen and the AI breaks your code one day or you break it, you can revert. Just like you would with any other tool. So the same best practices that we use outside of Antigravity would apply here as well. I don't know how long this is going to take, and we only have a couple minutes left. Oh, here we go. Okay, so okay, great. It's going to use Selenium to actually run these tests, which is great. Now, if I didn't want to use Selenium, I could have said to use something else instead. I would have to specify. And again, typically when I do start a project, I'm very opinionated and I say all the things that I want and I ask it to confirm it ahead of time. And then I let it go and build, rather than it building something based on the preferences of someone else, which is really what's happening behind the scenes. So I would recommend that. It's still, I think, going. Oh, here we go. It did end up creating a bunch of stuff. So while it was running, it was not creating the files. It was storing it probably in a scratchpad. But then once it was done, it did create all these files, and we can see what it did. So we have our package.json, and you can see here we have a test script there. And then here's our playwright config, and that's there. And then here's our individual tests here, all the different tests. And so now we could run these tests again, and it would go ahead and run it. And that's probably what I'll do. Oops. Can you run the tests again so I can watch? And that's probably how we'll end today, is with my hands off of the keyboard and off of the mouse, and watching as it takes over and run the tests. Which, if that was your job to do testing of a UI or a web app, how great would it be to be able to automate that fully and then be able to relax the rest of the day. All right. There's one question I see there. What additional benefits do you get for using Antigravity over Gemini CLI with VS Code? So with the Gemini CLI and VS Code, you're going to have a very similar experience in the sense that you're using VS Code, same UI, Gemini CLI on the side. That CLI is not going to have the same system prompt or the same agent structures that come with this. So here we're able to actually have multiple agents, and they're really delegating to each other in here. So a single task can often actually leverage multiple agents behind the scenes. I don't know if the Gemini CLI can control the web or not, Chrome or not. That'd be something that someone else might know. But essentially, you're using a tool closer to what they're using in-house at Google, right? And so they tend to output, really complex products. It would make sense that we would want to use a similar tool as well. Good question. Any other questions that may come up? Feel free to message me. Again, my handle on most things was the one Matt Kaufman. Here is a QR code of a free code lab that's available online that you can do to learn more about Antigravity and get started. It's a simple one. It's not hard at all. It's free. It's not timed either, which is nice, and it doesn't take any credits or anything like that to use. So you might as well play with it. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, if you are interested in volunteering or doing more with our community or any other communities around the world, please reach out. We're always looking for people, and it takes all sorts of different types of people and skills to make these events happen. And then if you are watching live or shortly after we're recording, we do have an in-person event here in LA on April 11th for International Women's Day. QR code is there. You can also find it on the GDG community website. I hope that you enjoyed this, and that I will see you soon at another event. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.